Hey guys, good morning. Joe Madden here, the Joe Madden Sports Podcast, joined by Ian Cameron, host of the Ice Guys. Ian, good morning. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you as always, Joe. And we're down to just one conference final now after the Colorado Avalanche sweep away the Edmonton Oilers last night.
What were your thoughts on that game? That was a crazy game. I actually didn't expect Edmonton to be able to get as many goals as they did. Defensively, I thought Colorado just allowed those shots, which we hadn't seen in game two and game three. What were your takeaways from it?
Colorado was just the better team, the deeper team, and it showed throughout the course of that series. And they got the better goaltending as well. It was just every facet of the game was better for Colorado. You look at up front, they got more contributions from different people. When you look at Edmonton, they couldn't match that. When you look at that incredible blue line for Colorado, Devon Taves, Cale Makar, Bowen Byram, Eric Johnson, Jack Johnson, you couldn't match that if you were Edmonton. Their blue line was down to a less than 100% Darnell Nurse as their number one defenseman, and he was not even close to 100% dealing with that oblique issue that he was dealing with. And then, of course, you had Cody Ceci, defenseman that couldn't keep up in Toronto and Ottawa and ended up here in Edmonton. You had Evan Bouchard and Tyson Barrie, who are more offensive-minded, can sometimes struggle in their own end. You have Duncan Keith, past his prime at this stage of his career. He should still help you in certain ways, but he's not going to be the Duncan Keith he was when he's winning Stanley Cups in Chicago years ago. So really, that is where it really shone through for me, was the difference in the blue line between Colorado and Edmonton. It was a massive, massive edge in favor of Colorado. And Pavel Francouz outplayed Mike Smith in net. That really was the difference. And Edmonton fought their guts out. I give them credit. They could have said, you know what, this ain't our night, this ain't our series, and just go quietly.
Yeah.
Especially with the way that game started. But they battled back. They blew the 4-2 lead. They fell behind 5-4. They tied it up again, 5-5. And they battled right till the end until Lehkonen ended it in overtime. And you give that team credit for the battle they showed, even though they were up against it, and especially to Leon Draisaitl and Darnell Nurse. I can't say enough what warriors they were. Neither one was even close to 100%. Leon Draisaitl could barely move out there. You could see every hit he took. He's struggling to get himself back up off the ice and back on his feet again, and he's always, leaning over, bent over on the bench because he's in so much pain. Those are absolute warriors. The fact that they played through what they were playing through, both Nurse and Draisaitl, so they deserve a whole lot of credit for that. But at the end of the day, the better team advanced, and that's Colorado onto the Stanley Cup final for the first time since 2001.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see Colorado there. Definitely last night, I'm glad Edmonton lost the way that they did and just didn't get blown out of the water. It was good to see them, like you said, fight that one out. It was a phenomenal game. Couldn't believe actually Edmonton didn't pull off that win, because looking at that third period, I thought they were going to. But yes, you're right. Colorado was the better team, were able to get it done. So what are your thoughts now on Colorado in the Stanley Cup Finals with Kemper and Francouz here? Who do you think is the better goalie in this?
The first thought that comes to mind for me is, how much time is Colorado going to have between wrapping it up against Edmonton last night and game one of the Stanley Cup Final? Because we might see 6 or 7 out of the Rangers and Lightning. So they could be waiting a while. And we saw what that meant to Tampa Bay in game one of the East Final when they had 9 days off and they didn't look sharp or in sync at all in game one against the Rangers when they had 9 days off after sweeping Florida in the second round. So that's the first thought. Colorado may be a little bit vulnerable in game one if they have a lot of time off, but that time off can, heal up some injuries, maybe allows, some people that were feeling less than 100% to be back. Unfortunately, the 2 key injuries they've suffered in these playoffs have already been ruled out for the rest of the season. Samuel Girard on the blue line, and of course Nazem Kadri, who ain't going to be coming back. His season's over. So they're not going to get those 2 guys back. So from an injury standpoint, really it's just healing up bumps and bruises, because there's really nobody on the active roster right now that was out that might come back in where you could say, whoa, 8-9 days off, it's going to give us an opportunity to get a guy back in the lineup. That's not the case. But the rest, I'm sure they'll enjoy that. but I am worried about how that will affect them specifically in game one, and even more so if we get a 6-7 game series, Rangers Lightning, which would guarantee pretty much that we won't be seeing the Stanley Cup final begin until middle of next week at the earliest. And that would put Colorado in that same position Tampa was in, where you're looking at maybe 9 or 10 days off before you get going in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, it's a definite loss of momentum there, having that many days off. Now, I didn't find out what actually happened to Kadri. Was it his thumb that was the injury? I can't hear you, Ian. Sorry.
Yeah, Kadri with the thumb surgery, and it was his
Thumb
thumb,
surgery.
absolutely, that got injured in that hit from Evander Kane. And he just, instead of saying, you know what, because it's a very sensitive injury type of deal,
Yeah.
that, we're going to just say, you know what, let's get the surgery done. Let's be ready for training camp. Let's be ready as close as we can anyway for training camp and the regular season next year. So I think that was the decision that was made, because I think they were looking at it and saying, you know what, you're going to be probably less than a 50% chance to maybe get back for the Stanley Cup final. And once they determined that, they said, you know what, get the surgery, be ready for next season. I'm sure it's absolutely crushing for Kadri,
Yeah.
who's had a great playoffs, who is, trying to compete for a Stanley Cup for the first time. You can't compete with your teammates on the ice trying to get this Stanley Cup. It hurts. I mean, it's a tough feeling. You're going to be sitting in the press box or sitting wherever you are watching these games unfold, and you can't participate. It is gut-wrenching, I'm sure, for him. But at the end of the day, they made the smart decision. It's going to be unlikely that he could be back in time for this playoff run. Have him ready for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. He's such a pivotal part of this team. So, but they can play without him. Now let's talk about the game tonight. We have the New York Rangers taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. We saw the Rangers almost get the win in game 3, but Tampa be able to pull it off, as I think the Rangers really just in the third period. I don't know what happened. Something wasn't clicking there. What were your thoughts on the last game?
The last game, Tampa Bay deserved to win. There's no question. 5-on-5, they absolutely dominated the New York Rangers. There's no question about that. And that's what concerns me going into tonight, because I think there's going to be more people backing Tampa tonight, thinking, look, the home team's won every game so far. Let's see if Tampa can tie this series up. They got momentum. They've got their first win. They're going to ride that wave into game 4 tonight. But when you look at it, can Tampa Bay really play any better than they did in game 3? They have 51 shots on goal. They controlled the game at 5-on-5 even strength. And yet they were still life and death to win that hockey game. And they needed Andre Palat's goal on a beautiful touch pass from Kucherov to set it up with 40 seconds left to win that game. Otherwise, we could have gone to overtime. And who knows, one shot, the Rangers steal that game.
Yeah.
So that's the issue with, and you're laying $1.75 with Tampa Bay here in game 4. When, can you really expect them to play it better than they did in game 4? I think that was a terrific game. I don't think there's a whole lot of room for improvement. I thought they played great, other than taking penalties, which is an issue. They took a couple of those undisciplined penalties. Perry was slashing away at Shesterkin, which is, look, I know that's his game. Getting into the goalie's face, trying to rattle the goaltender, crash the net is Corey Perry's MO. There's no question about that. But at some point, you can't cross the line. You can't be slashing at the goalie, putting yourself down a man, having to kill off a penalty when you're facing the red-hot Rangers power play, which actually scored both of their goals in game 3 on the power play. So that's still an issue, Joe, for Tampa. Stay out of the box or kill off the penalty. But, you just can't be giving the Rangers these opportunities, because this really, from game 6 against Carolina, this has been an absolutely blazing hot Rangers power play, and it continues to get the job done. So special teams matters, and the Rangers power play still had success in game 3, even though they lost. So, I'm leaning to the dog here, to be quite honest with you, just because of where the price is. With the Tampa Bay Lightning being minus 175, the Rangers plus 155 in this game, that implies that the Rangers probably have a sub 40% chance of winning this game. I don't know if I buy that, because I got to expect them to push back and play better. I'm sure Gerard Gallant wasn't thrilled with the 5-on-5 play of his team in game 3. It wasn't good at all. You got to expect a much better 60-minute effort from them. Whereas on the flip side, can you really play all that much better if you're Tampa Bay? And yet you were still like right down to the wire, final minute, needing a game-winning go-ahead goal, to get that win, which it once again illustrates just how utterly brilliant Igor Shesterkin has been and continues to be here in these playoffs. So I think based on where this price is, look, if you give me Tampa minus 130, minus 140, maybe it's a different story. Maybe I'm singing a different tune and I'm looking to back Tampa to tie the series. But this is all about price point. And to me, minus 175 is a rich price point for Tampa Bay, considering I think there's a whole lot more to give for the New York Rangers tonight. And I don't know if there's a whole lot more that the Tampa Bay Lightning can do right compared to game three, where I thought they played a phenomenal game. And yet here they are right down to the final minute, life and death to escape. So I'm leaning to the underdog here just based on where this price is.
Yeah, I agree with you too here. I think the Rangers play a smart game, especially trying to force the other team to get those penalties. We saw them do it, like you said, with Carolina. They're now doing it with Tampa. They know on their power play, they can dominate. One thing I was looking at, Ian, and I want to get your opinion on this, was the New York Rangers in the first period on the reverse puck line. We reversed that puck line at minus 0.5. We're getting just under plus 200, around plus 180-ish, I think it is. What are your thoughts on that? Do you expect the New York Rangers to come out strong in the first period like we saw in the last game?
Yeah, that's for even more value. That's not bad. That's the alternative puck line for the first period at a really, really good price. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people probably liking Tampa minus a half, and you'll get still a decent price. You'll get like plus 150 or so with Tampa Bay first period puck line. But usually when I like with those first period bets, I'm looking to back the losing team of the previous game with that first period, to think they're going to come out strong. They're going to have a good effort. Kind of like what I did with Edmonton in game three, against Colorado when they were down 2-0. They're back home, backs against the wall, so to speak. And even though that period ended up 1-1, or it ended up 1-1 after the first period, it was a push with that. Yeah. Edmonton did have the better of the play in that first period, big time. And it was very, very lucky for Colorado. They got the goal off the stick of Nurse, deflecting it in past his own goaltender that they got in that first period. But yeah, usually I'm looking at a first period wager in a playoff series. I'm looking at the losing team of the previous game, especially when it's a quality team like the New York Rangers. And of course, they've also been a better team, I find, with Barclay Goodrow back. You actually see when the hot streak started for the New York Rangers. They had Barclay Goodrow out since, I believe, game 1 of the Pittsburgh series. He came back in game 6 of the Carolina series, and they had gone 4-0 with him back in the lineup for the Rangers. He's a great two-way forward before they finally lost their first game with Barclay Goodrow back in game 3 the other night, or Sunday afternoon, rather, 3-2. That was their first loss since getting Goodrow back. So a great two-way player. He's helped them immensely away from the puck and defensively, which is good to see. And again, the Rangers off, losing that game in the final minute. We saw them get the first goal in game 3, even though they lost that hockey game. So you could even look New York Rangers to score the first goal. If you don't like the minus, if you want to be safe, that maybe, hey, we got a goaltending duel early. Maybe we don't have goals in the first period. And if you're worried about that, we are talking Vasilevsky and Shesterkin. Arguably the two best goaltenders left. They are the two best goaltenders left in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Maybe we don't get goals early, but there's still that chance for the Rangers to strike first, which is something they've been very good at here in this series. Game 1, they had the first goal. Game 3, they had the first goal. Only game 2, they didn't have the first goal of this series. So in a game in this series, so the Rangers to score first goal. I don't mind your Rangers first period look, Joe, but like I say, full game money line at plus 155. Man, that's a big, big price to be getting a team that's off a loss, that you expect them to punch back strong, expect them to bring a much better effort with a goaltender that's playing as good, if not better, than anybody right now in the Stanley Cup playoffs in Igor Shesterkin. That's a big price to be given that kind of package.
I completely agree with that, Ian. Now, do you do any live betting? I know a lot of people were jumping on the Avs when they went down last night. Is that something that you're into, and do you have any advice if you do?
Yeah, what you want to do is you don't always want to bet the team that just scored. You want to be looking for the value. You want to be going against what you just saw. And that really works well, by the way, in the NBA as well. Like if you bet against the team that just put forth the 12-0 run in a game, you're going to be doing well with live NBA betting. It's like that buy low, sell high philosophy. If you take the stock market analogy, that's what you want to be looking to do with NHL betting too. Like when Colorado, for instance, when Colorado was down 3-1 to Edmonton last night going into the third period, that may not be the best time to be betting Edmonton, at that point when they've already got a 2-goal lead, especially when you've got a very quality team that knows they're never out of a game, like Colorado on the other side. After Edmonton scored that third goal from McDavid on the power play, that's usually the time to bet the other side and maybe look for a momentum swing, especially when that other side's a very capable, very strong hockey team like Colorado. So it's always, don't necessarily bet what you just saw, bet against what you just saw, and look for maybe a momentum swing.
Great advice there, Ian. Now, host of the Ice Guys, what's happening this week on the Ice Guys?
As far as the Ice Guys go, we're still on every single game day for the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs, 7 days a week throughout the season. You can check that out, the Ice Guys YouTube channel, @the_Ice Guys on Twitter as well. We have live betcasts twice a week. We've got one more betcast for the conference finals Thursday night, Game 5. Rangers and Lightning, 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. I might even pass you a link, Joe, if you want to join us for a few minutes of that. The betcast on Thursday night. But yeah, we got that on Thursday night. It's just fun. It's live betting. It's analysis. Bring your favorite adult beverage with you. It's like a bar. It's like a pub. So if you want to have a little something to drink, that's fine on the betcast. So that's a lot of fun. I've got the Ice Guys. I've got Pub Sports radio shows throughout the week. I'm going to be doing some writing for another website in the near future as well. If you're interested in subscriptions, the Canadian Football League season starts later this week. It's one of my prime sports, one of my most profitable sports, 7 of 9 winning seasons in the Canadian Football League since I started. So it's been a consistent source of profit. If you want to jump on board that or any subscription offering, just send an email to me at bobano350@gmail.com.
And now if everyone's looking for you on social media, where can they find you, Ian?
On Twitter @Bobano. All the, like I said, all the subscription offerings, I post them and promote them there. All my video links are posted there. I have free plays and picks daily. You get tons of opinions from me, unfiltered Ian Cameron every single day. Whatever's on my mind, spits out right there on Twitter for all to see.
I love it, Ian. You are just crushing it in the business. You guys make sure you go give Ian a follow. Thank you so much for your time again today. Can't wait to have you on again.
Absolutely. We'll do this again. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Ian.